So welcome everybody and happy Valentine's Day. Since today is Valentine's Day, I wanted to talk on the topic of love and how we as teachers can show love to our students, just as Jesus shows love to us. And so I am going to share my screen and go over here. And you guys should also have the link I sent in the webinar invitation, the link to this slides presentation, so you can have all of this information as well. Okay, so we're going to start with 1 Corinthians 13 as we talk about teaching with love. And I've done an exercise before where you can see how loving you actually are by substituting the word love with your own name. So love is
that's good
and kind. So if I can say Melina is patient and kind, and I can say that without rolling my eyes or realizing how ridiculous that is, that's a goal, right? So that's the first thing we want to talk about is we need to always be patient and kind with our students. We can say Jesus is patient and kind. Think of how patient and kind he is with us. So one thing as an English teacher, it can get sometimes frustrating when you feel like you've explained something to your students numerous times and they are not getting it. Or you have asked them many times to complete their homework and they have not completed it. Or recently I had the issue with my Portuguese students. I've told them so many times that the letter R at the beginning of a word is pronounced R, but they insist on pronouncing it as an H. And they know this, but they're still doing it. And so when these things happen, it's important that we do not become impatient, that we do not become overly critical, but that we find ways to remind them in a kind manner. So would any of you like to share, is there any place where you have challenges being patient with your students?
I think on pronunciation, the Iranians always put a vowel in front of a word. I had a lady this morning, the Muslim lady, and we were going through lesson 38 because she missed 2 weeks. I wanted to refresh her, and it was speak and speak, and I say no, not speak, speak, do a long, and I was kind of encouraging her, and sometimes she got it, sometimes she didn't, but I would just gently remind her again, and I felt she progressed, even though it wasn't 100%, just that little gentle reminder. But I said, don't worry, it's all Iranians are the same, so I have the problem with all of them. But anyway, she enjoyed the lesson, and she was open to prayer. I didn't do the Bible study because it's real long on that 38, so I don't think she's quite up to that. But we did sentences, like speak in a sentence to kind of, get her to really grasp the meaning when she didn't understand. Some of the words were new to her. But yeah, that was good.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I have the same problem with a lot of my Spanish speakers, because in Spanish, when there's an S combination at the beginning of the word, they're not used to putting a vowel, or they are used to putting a vowel in front of it. And one trick I found that sometimes works is asking them to put the S at the end of the previous word. So
yeah, that's a good system. Yeah.
So saying ice peak I speak instead of I speak. But yeah, that's just a pattern they've had their whole life. So we do have to be patient as they work that out. There's always that gap also between what they know and what they can do, and then what they do consistently, right? So we know many times they know the rule, but they're not producing it. Or they know the rule and they can produce it, but they don't produce it consistently. And so, yeah, those are things we've got to work on. Okay, great. So, oops, sorry. I just got a message in the chat box from Kajovi, and he was saying he's just started learning to speak Portuguese, which is wonderful. Actually, I don't speak Portuguese. I wish I could, but I do have a lot of students from Brazil who speak Portuguese. Okay, so, oops, still on the wrong slide. Here we go. So our second point is love is not jealous. It does not brag, and it is not proud. So we have to remember having that humble attitude, that our students really see that spirit in us. They can see if we are arrogant or egotistical, if we are very proud of our accomplishments. I always feel like I can't be very proud of my English abilities since I was sort of born into it. But we want to, again, just have that attitude of humility, of realizing that nobody knows everything. We don't know everything. Our students have very valuable knowledge, and we have to make sure that we are not too proud to listen to them and learn from them as well. The next line, love is not rude. It is not selfish. It cannot be made angry easily. So we want to make sure that we are not irritable, that we are not getting upset or angry, that we're not being selfish, that we're serving our students, and we're modeling politeness. Love does not remember wrongs done against it. Many times our students have, made mistakes, or I've had some students who are chronic in not doing their homework. And I have to remember, that wherever they are, we're going to accept them where they are. We're going to encourage them to do better, but we're not going to hold against them the wrongs that they have done. Love is never happy when others do wrong, but is always happy with the truth. And by the way, this is from the easy read version of the Bible. So if this is a familiar verse to you, but the wording's a little bit different, we do get this from the ERV, which is a really nice version to use with our students because the vocabulary is pretty simple. Love never gives up on people. It never stops trusting. It never loses hope, and it never quits. So that's important. There's some students that we're tempted to give up on, that we may lose hope that they're never going to progress or they're never going to quite get there. But love doesn't give up on people. Love will never end. So many things in this world are going to pass away, but love never ends. This is eternal. And that's always a good reminder for me, because I often get caught up in circumstantial things that are going to pass away. They don't have value, but it seems like they occupy a lot of my mind. And so just remembering that love never ends. And finally, love is a fruit of the Spirit. So as we read this and measure ourselves against it and say, I may be coming up short in some areas here, remembering that we get the fruit of the Spirit from being connected to the true vine, not from our own efforts. So we can grit our teeth all we want and say, all right, I am going to be patient and kind today if it kills me. But really, the most important thing we can do is spending time with Jesus and letting his love flow through us. Does anyone have any comments on this verse or how it relates to your own teaching?
I think it's terrific. I teach classes too, and I'm finding myself more having issues with those. But I think too, I want to apply it to myself, because I can get frustrated with myself because I'm not, not that I'm not this, but just, it's a complicated thing. But anyways, I love putting that name in there. Tanya is patient and kind. The evaluation or the x-ray questions on those two are very helpful. But I think it's with myself as well, as in not just how I'm behaving outside, but how I'm being with myself. Am I being patient with myself as Jesus would be patient with me? Mm-hmm. It's generally not my ESL student. He's very, it's really going well. It's mostly my classes that I teach that I get frustrated with myself. So anyways, I love him. I think it's great. I'm super excited to hear this. I'm glad I'm here.
Great, thanks, Tanya. And I agree that classes are often much more challenging than our individual tutoring students, because classes you can have, and it depends on the age group. I've always taught adults, but even with adults, you can have, a few troublemakers in the back of the room who are chatting the whole time in their first language and not paying attention to the lesson. There's more classroom management issues that come into play when we're dealing with a group rather than one-on-one. And I imagine if you're working with young learners, there's even more, they're so wiggly, and just trying to keep them at their desks and not hitting each other or things like that.
Yeah, so this is very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments? I see that Jean has joined us also. Thank you, John, for joining us. Hi.
Hello, Melina. Hello, everyone. I came a little bit late. Sorry.
That's okay. Good to have you here.
Yeah, I had some trouble with joining online.
Well, I'm glad.
As I came on, I heard you talking about never giving up on people. And as I'm thinking about my class this term, I was already thinking about one of my students. I was like, oh, wow, how can I deal with that man? So hearing this is giving me courage to tackle the situation, and then not giving up on him, but trying to, with love, teaching with love and bearing with patience, and teaching him like God would do for anyone. Yes. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. Many of us have had those experiences with those certain students. And also, Jean
Hello.
Loco has joined us. Yes, go ahead, Coach Jovi.
Yes, I have to make a comment. It's about teaching with passion, love, and all that. And we have to do that. Uh, where I am teaching, sometimes you have some stubborn students. Then it comes that we punish them sometimes, not something that is so rude, but something like duty, responsibility that they themselves have to do, then you make them do it. So my question is, teaching with love should prevent us from punishing students, or what do we do when we have stubborn students?
That's a great question. And that brings us to the next verse I wanted to share with you. This is from Paul's letter to the Thessalonians.
Okay.
And we have to remember that our Father disciplines us so that we can become better. And in some situations, now you're teaching in a government school working with adolescents, so that's a different situation than, you know, if I'm working one-on-one with an adult learner. Some of my students are older than me, so I wouldn't be in a position to discipline them. But as a school teacher, yes, you often are. I think of this verse, brothers and sisters, we urge you to warn those who are lazy, encourage those who are timid, take tender care of those who are weak, be patient with everyone. But that first part, to warn those who are lazy. So, you know, there are times when where younger students are misbehaving, and they may have to have some sort of discipline that is in accordance with the institution that you work at. We don't want to be overly lenient to our students. We want to hold them to high standards. We can expect a lot from them. And when they are not behaving, especially if they're disrupting the class, or it's a detriment to their own learning, that they're not doing the work, we do need to warn them and to be firm with them. Again, I can't speak to this too much because I have not worked with younger students, but perhaps some of you who have, I know Prakash works with kids, and some of the rest of you have. How do you handle that discipline? How do you discipline speaking the truth in love and having consequences for actions?
Sometimes the kids, we need to urge or warn them not to do that again. So sometimes when we let them do, they do more. So a part of fire, we need to dismiss that on time. Otherwise, that might uh, spread to other areas. So I'm using analogy of the fire. The discipline is like fire. When we let them do more mistakes, and that happens again and again. But when we instruct or check on time, and then they won't do that. And the one small part of fire should be dismissed. So this is another way of maintaining discipline, and clear instructions, clear uh, uh, ideas. So what you do and what you should not do. And
Mhm.
if we say that clearly, and that works.
Okay, thank you very much, Prakash.
Yeah. So my another thing is nobody is strong, nobody is weak. Some can learn slowly, some can learn faster. That is the difference. But let's apply the strategy or classroom management as per the context. Some are slow learners, some are fast learners, but all can learn. If we can them learn, if we can make them learn, they learn. If we facilitate them, they can learn. So let's not focus on teaching. Let's focus on facilitating learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash. And Jean Atto?
Yes, I want to give an input on that aspect. And actually, I'm working with some children at home currently. And as learning styles are included on what we are saying, actually, it is sometimes difficult to be willing to punish the student, because I've noticed that if I had to use that aspect of punishment, I won't gain them. Actually, they will be closed up to me. Actually, they will be like, no, I don't want this teacher. So whenever I see them playing too much, because they are four, actually, they are four, and brothers and sisters have two twins, and the elder brother and a sister. So they're always playing, kidding, touching, and saying something. If you say something, they want to joke with it. They're always finding something. But I've tried to be like, hey, if you do that again, I'll beat you. But I saw that it didn't work. Because even one told me, oh, if you say that, or if you ever beat me, I will tell my father you are not a good teacher. So what I found, like, okay, whenever they start playing, whenever they start doing something, I will just go with them. I play with them. Whenever they start joking, I actually make them joke. But at the end of that joke, I will just catch their attention and give a little notion of, moral. Yes, this is actually good. We should play. We should do this. We should do that. After we had that fun, okay, then I'll bring their attention to what is our purpose. Yes, this is in the case of children, right? So your parent has been spending money on you, and we don't have to be playing all the time. Yes, of course, we have to play. Yes, but we don't have to, you see your father is suffering. He's suffering to pay this for you. So you don't have to be playing all the time. So when we play a little bit, then we finish and we continue our work. And they seem to understand me if I'm doing it like that. But if I take it like, okay, no, I'll beat you, they'll say, no, I don't want you, teacher. So that is a point I got from experience I get from that.
Yeah,
Thank
Sean,
you.
that sounds like what Jesus does. He meets us where we're at, right? We're to get to know people and, meet them where they're at, and then guide them where we're going, right? Or guide them. So that's really good too. Yeah, I have 3rd through 5th graders, and they do begin just as you described, the activity, the joking and everything, and I do get frustrated with them, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to get accomplished what I want to get accomplished today. So I've let go of some of my goals, because it's not necessarily, I'm the only one that came up with those accomplishments anyhow. So I don't necessarily have to hold on to those, because I teach homeschoolers in writing. So their parents will pick up what I don't miss. So the relationship, valuing the relationship and where they're at, is good. I think too that I can't find it in Matthew, but I know Matthew says, Jesus says, go to the person who has offended you, because in a way it's disrespectful, and it's, like, yeah. So going to them directly and talking possibly after class, and saying, hey, I love you, and this is what, I see happening, what's going on, and, but talking with them directly, and then possibly next time, if I need to, bring the parent in. But yeah, I've got one student that likes to just yell out things that, not yell out, but speak out things that are inappropriate in a class. And it's like, no, we're just not supposed to go there. So I'm convicted I need to take care of that and talk with him directly and not be in such a hurry. Usually hurry is what gets me in trouble. I'm in a hurry, and then I'm not doing well with my relationships at that point.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanya and John. Anyone else have comment on that? Well, I wanted to go with just a few more things to think about. Be sure that you're speaking positively to your students and about your students. It's so easy for us to focus on the errors that they make instead of what they're doing correctly. And we have to look at, the errors that they're making are often their attempt to do it correctly. And so we praise that attempt, even if they haven't achieved it perfectly yet. So abundant praise, being humble, we talked about before, being willing to listen to our students and learn from them, and being authentic. Hypocrisy is the worst thing. Students spot it immediately if we tell them one thing, but they see us doing something else. So we really have to make sure that we are in a good relationship with God, that we are being authentic in our faith and not pretending to be a good Pharisee when students can see behind that facade and see what we are really like. We want to be merciful. We hold them to high standards, but we want to be merciful. Everyone has bad days, and most of our students are going through things that we can't even imagine. We don't know what problems they may have at home, the pressures that they're facing outside of our class. So we do want to show mercy. Another way to teach with love is to listen to our students and ask questions to learn more about them. Whenever possible during the class, as we're teaching a lesson, we always try to turn it towards them so they have an opportunity to talk about themselves and their own life and how it applies to them. And even before and after class, those are great opportunities to talk to our students and show that we really care about them. And follow up on things if they've told us that they weren't feeling well, to say, how are you feeling now? I've been praying for you. Or how did your driving test go? I was praying that you would do well on that test. Just let them know you're thinking about them, you care about them more than just as students. Follow up with students who are absent. Sometimes it's hard. Students just drop out. Barbara mentioned that one of her students just disappeared. No call, no show. We just don't know what happened to them. But if we can, follow up and say, hey, we missed you. We missed you in class. Where are you? Are you okay? Let them know that we do care about them. Go after those lost sheep and try to bring them back. Pray for them, pray for your students. During class, silently, I often pray. Pray for them. You can pray for them out loud as well. You can pray for them between classes, but I think that's one of the most helpful things you can do. Pray that they will learn, pray that they will grow closer to God, pray that their hearts will be open to receive his message. And pray for yourself, pray for wisdom, pray to have love and patience, pray to be a better teacher. Those are all, some people say that they don't like to pray for themselves, but I find that it's very helpful. Asking for that help that I need. I'm just looking at in the chat that Jean Leco wrote. The thing is, for me, I teach in almost all schools which have multiple denominations, but love is the common word for all. And so we will be working with students from different denominations, different faith backgrounds, no faith backgrounds, but everyone is attracted to love. Everyone needs love. Okay. There are, if you're interested, I found a good website that has more resources on this. It's called teachfortheheart.com. And so if you're interested in learning more about ways to show God's love to your students, that might be something you'd find they have some videos and different articles that may be helpful. All right, so does anybody else have any comments or questions about this topic?
I don't about the topic, but the slides. So that's generally where, if I just print all those out, those are generally where the webinars will come from, is all the slides.
Yeah, I've put them all into one gigantic slide presentation. So I don't know, it may have 70 or 80 slides at this point. I don't know if you want to print it out, but I figured having it all in one place would be a
Okay.
good way for people to find it.
Yeah.